like a business. Stop hiding in the crowd and get visible.
Get visible. Go, girl. Get visible. Go, girl. Get visible. Go, girl. Get visible.
Hey guys, how are you doing? I am excited for this episode, and I'm excited. Let me just say that, right? So I'm really excited for this episode. A little bit speechless, as you can tell, and it's because it's something that you probably have heard some of these things before. It's something that I rant about all the time, and I just never had the idea to do a podcast episode about it. I don't know why, but I recently saw that Pat Flynn had an episode talking about his worst podcast pitches. I purposely did not listen to the episode yet because I wanted to do my own first, right? But shout out to Pat Flynn, because I think as podcast hosts, and especially people who help other people to grow their businesses. So like I help you get visible and grow. Pat Flynn helps you to come up with smart passive income ideas and grow your business. And I think as part of that, we should also help you not to make some of the mistakes that we see come across I'm used to saying across our desk, but like across our screens and computers so often. So when I saw the title of the episode, I was like, that is such a good idea. I'm going to pull my things and do one. And like I said, I purposely did not listen. So if it's some of the same things that he says, that just tells you that it's doubly wrong. But I do recommend, I'm actually going to link it or have it linked in the show notes. I do recommend listening because, these are all things, very common things that you don't want to fall into. And I'm going to say there's never too many not mistakes that you can avoid. So the more you hear, the more you get, the better your reaching out and pitches will be. So first of all, let's talk about pitching to be as a guest on podcasts. I think I did an episode about it. I know in 2021, I did a whole episode on the early 2021. I'll link that in the show notes too. I did a whole episode on the number one backlinking strategy, which was for 2021, which was being a guest on podcasts. And I'm going to tell you that it's probably still number one for 2022 as well. I got one other strategy that I'll be sharing with you soon. Right? But being a guest on podcasts, especially for my course creators, my membership site owners, my fellow podcasters who podcast for business, like my knowledge-based businesses, my digital entrepreneurs, right? Folks who literally, we sell the things that we think about, right? We sell the things that we know, we sell our expertise. That is the thing we want to put out there into the world. We are the audience that is most important for us to get out there and be on podcasts. Not just for the backlinks. Yes, it is great for the backlinks. I feel like it's a little dark in here. Let me brighten me up some, right? But, it is great to get it for the backlinks, definitely the SEO way to go. But also, you need to build authority, right? You need to get in front of other people's audiences. A lot of people are always like, how do I get in front of audiences without paying for ads or without having to, shake it on TikTok every day? Well, one of those big ways is to get in front of other people's audiences by being a guest on their podcast. It is a win-win. They need guests, right? You need to be in front of people. You've got things to share. They've got people to share it with. And so if you really set it up like it's a win-win, good opportunity, then it's going to really help you, them, and both of your businesses, right? So I'm sure I've convinced you by now. If not, go back to that last episode. All of it is still true, right? It did not change this year. That it is still one of the best ways to get out there and to grow your audience, grow your business, and to get the backlinks, right? Because we need those, right? But how you reach out to people is just as important as you reaching out to people, right? It is not enough to say, well, I sent out 10 pitches and that is good and I did my thing, right? A pitch isn't good till it gets accepted. Let's just say that, right? You can send out 10, 20, 30 pitches until they start getting accepted. it's a no-go, right? It's a no-go. All your work is like thwarted. It's funny because, and I'm going to talk about this probably in another episode too. But it's funny because recently I've been thinking about, the difference of entrepreneurship and, having a 9-to-5 or a job and stuff like that. And one of the big differences is that with entrepreneurship, like when you have a 9-to-5, if you show up to work and you do some work, you'll get paid, right? If you don't, then you need to quit. That's a whole nother story, right? But for the most part, if you show up and do the work, you will get paid. Sometimes if you show up and don't actually do too much work that day, you will still get paid, right? Because you showed up. And that's just how 9-to-5s work. But when you run a business, it's not necessarily the same way, right? It's not necessarily the same thing. You could show up every single day and do the work. You can go lives, you can send the emails, you can create the programs and the webinars and do all the things and still not make any money. And that's what I'm saying about pitching too. You can send out all the pitches in the world and still never get any accepted, right? And some people just feel like I'm doing the thing, and so since I'm doing the thing, then the thing should be working. And that's just not true. That's just not how business goes, right? But I'm here to tell you the things that are going to work. I'm going to tell you how to do the things that are better, that are helpful, and I'm going to go through some of the worst pitches I've received. Now, I did not pull out individual emails and like list all the emails together because I don't want to put names and I don't want to put too much stuff that's going to identify the people. But if you see yourself in some of these, it might be you. I'm not even gonna lie, right? So what I did was, and some people make common mistakes, like a bunch of people make some of the same mistakes. So what I did, I made a list. I got a list for you guys, right? I made a list of the top 10 things that come through in the emails. So like I said, some might be 1 or 2 emails. Some might be, I get this all the time, and I'm going to tell you guys about it. Some of them you may have heard me say, some of you may have heard someone else say. Like I said, you can never get too many of the things not to do. I'm just going to say that, right? Because that means you need to hear it, right? If it's happening to all of us, you need to hear it. All right. So let me start with my list, right? I even numbered them, right? Number 1, and I have this happen quite often, which is pretty bad. But I literally just yesterday sent somebody back a response and quite annoyed because the person sent a follow-up and another follow-up. And every time I sent back and said, my name's not Jason. There's no Jason at this company. There are no Jasons here, right? Yes, I'm calling out the name because I know it's a very generic name, so it could be anybody, right? But first one on the list is the wrong name. Make sure you get the name of the person that you are sending to, even if all of us use some type of form or content, which, by the way, we in SEO Assist, there is a podcast pitching flow that will help you get this right. I'll be talking about that a couple times as we talk too. But all of us use a tool. I get it. Right? Not everybody's free forming letters. I don't think you even should be doing that. But I do need you to proofread, right? I do need you to make sure you type in the right name or have no name at all. I would rather you say, hey girl, or something, and then go into it. Even in that case, they would say, hey guy, and that would have been a problem too. But that's a whole nother stuff, right? But first thing, make sure you got the name right. Make sure you got the name of the host. Make sure you got the name of the show. Make sure any other identifying information that you include in your pitch is going to be the correct information. It is an automatic, I'm not even reading the rest of this if you can't get my name right. Just not even gonna make it across the door. All right. Number 2, right? Clearly choosing for numbers. Let me tell you guys a secret, right? A small secret. I don't even know if it's a secret, but I feel like people don't realize this. But let me tell you, I'm going to lean in a little bit on this one. People who have good numbers know they have good numbers. Let me say that again. People who have good numbers, meaning we've got an audience, we get good downloads, we've got traffic coming to our site, we've got high numbers on Instagram and Facebook. People who have good numbers know they have good numbers. That's it. That's number 2, right? So let me tell you why I say this, because very often I can tell when someone is clearly just wanting to pitch me because they're like, oh, you got a lot of people listening to your show. Let me be a guest. And I'm like, I know I've got a lot of people being on my show. That's why I got a show, right? I do SEO. I drive traffic. Like, I grow audiences. So I do that, right? So when people come and tell me I have good numbers, or people tell me there's a lot of people listening, or people tell me, very vague vanity things, right? I see you have a big following on Clubhouse or something like that. And they're like, I really want to do this with you. Another automatic no. You might as well have just said my wrong name, right? Might as well just said the wrong name, because I know that you're just chasing after the numbers. You're just chasing after the things. And honestly, I'm going to tell you another small secret, because most people with good numbers also have learned how to monetize them by now. And so when somebody hits me up like that, I immediately send them my ad rates. Right? So if somebody sends you your ad rates, know that you probably were too salesy. Or too, not saying salesy, but you were too about the numbers, about the products, which we're going to talk about that too. You were too about yourself, right? In the pitch, that they're like, you know what? You want to come on here and do a commercial? Let me give you the rates to come in here and do a commercial, right? So when I get those kind of things, like I said, I just send them to my ad rates, right? Number 3, and I know you guys have heard me vent about this before, because I vent about it very often. Anybody who's worked with me, read my book, you've got SEO Assist, because SEO Assist assists you with this, right? Anyone who's been in my sphere knows that I hate. Don't ever send me a pitch without topics. Never. Right? I may not take the topics, but I need some topic ideas to even get an idea of what you're going to talk about. Especially if, I'm going to tell you this now, as we approach episode number 100, which is not a huge, it's a good number. It's a milestone. I'm excited and proud about it. But be clear that episode 100 is not the largest. Like, I know people have got 400 podcast episodes, right? But once you've got to episode number 100, or just up there in the episodes, you've probably touched on a lot of topics, right? Example, finance. I've got a lot of finance friends, right? A lot of finance friends. I've run across a lot of people talk about finance. So if you send me a pitch and say, I'm in finance and I'd love to be on your show, I need you to tell me what you're going to talk about, because I've already had people talk about finance on my show. Even podcasting, right? Oddly enough, because I podcast and I help out podcasters with SEO and stuff like that, I've talked about podcasting. Because I podcast and I've got friends who podcast, I've had friends who come on who talk about podcasting. So if somebody's going to come on and talk about podcasting, which I've got a guest coming up, you guys are going to like the spin on this. I'm excited. But if someone's going to come up talking about podcasting, I need them to tell me how it's going to be different than all the other times that I've talked about podcasting. Right? So I need them to tell me, we're going to talk about this part of podcasting. We're going to talk about that part of podcasting. We're going to do something a little bit different than what I've done before. And don't leave it up to me to come up with your topics. Because especially if I don't know you, if it's a complete cold email, if you're a friend, we're going to feel like we're going to figure something out, right? If I don't know you and you're just pitching me completely cold, I'm not doing that work for you. I'm going to say no, right? And move it along. So I need to mark these off, because I'm already losing track as I do. You guys know how I do with these things, right? But I actually want to move something up, right, on my list here, from as I'm talking about not giving me topics. Actually, no, I'll leave it in the way it is, right? So the next one is not paying attention to my demographic. This is very, very, very important. Listen to people's intros. Just a little bit, right? I know my intro, I'm very descriptive about who I work with, who I serve, and stuff like that. Go to people's websites, right? Look at their social media, see who they got on their social media, right? One of the things that irks me the absolute most, is when people pitch men for my show. Cold pitches from men on my show. Now, you guys know, because you listen to the show, I've had some guys, literally 2 guys, right? 100 episodes, only two guys, maybe 3, because if it's the third, I can't remember, right? I had Stu on last year. I had Dave Connery in the very beginning, and like I said, I think that's it. But what's really important about that is that every person that I have on, like every male that I have on, is definitely someone I'm connected to. Like I know them, I've talked to them, work with them. There's no shortage of men that are in business that we can learn from, right? And this is no shade to men. I like guys, right? No shade to men at all. I got my guys get visible. Like I get it, but this is girl get visible. And so when people send me, and I usually get these from not just the guys themselves, but pitch companies, like companies that pitch you, which I'm going to tell you guys, I don't have it as a number here. Read the pitches that these people are sending out for you. Because I swear, I want to call people up sometimes and tell them, do you know how bad of a pitch you are paying for right now? Because this thing is trash. Like my name is wrong. It's got no topics. Like it's just absolute trash, right? And so I'm going to reject it, but notice because you're paying for it. And I feel bad. Like you're paying for this thing that essentially isn't getting you anything. But back to the demographics, I'll get a lot of people who will be like, so-and-so, guy is great for your show, blah, 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 blah. And they'll tell me all the great things that so-and-so guy does. They never even acknowledge, I know this is girl get visible. They never even say, do you have men on the show sometimes? Or are you open to male guests? Something that lets me know that they know who my audience is. And my show is called Girl Get Visible, right? Girl. Right. So, and I talk about in my particular intro, I talk about, the course creators, the content creators, like all the things that people I'm talking to. Right. So when I get pitches that clearly did not pay attention to anything that I said, it is very clear. Right. Very, very clear, and a complete turnoff. So next thing, make sure you pay attention to folks' demographics. And I'm talking about, specifically the male, female demographic, but make sure if a show is about people in a certain area of the country, or people with certain jobs, people of certain races and ethnicities, we were talking about certain sexes, people of certain ages, people, certain military standing. Like there's one show that actually, funny enough, because this is a long time ago, old team member create a list, and it said something about people, or was it women in vets or just vets? Either way, I'm not a vet, right? So I was like, we can't pitch this show because I'm not a vet and they clearly want to talk to vets. I get it. Right. So we did not pitch them. But I did send it over to some people who I know are vets that could really use it, and it would be great for them. And I think the idea of the show, helping women, helping vets, helping entrepreneurs, is amazing. But I'm not the demographic. Right. And so that's important. Be real with yourself, and if it ain't you. Right. Next thing is not reviewing my site. So this kind of piggybacks a little bit off of what I said, but not reviewing my site. Sometimes, I just had this happen to me last week. Sometimes I'll do a one-off of something, or I'll talk about something in an episode that isn't necessarily what I do, right? So this I think came from my YouTube channel. The person wanted to, this wasn't even it was a pitch, but it was a pitch because they wanted me to be an affiliate and collaborate with them. And they were like, yeah, I think it'd be great. I listened to your content, and I had to go back and say, what did you listen to? What did you see? Right? Because I already knew, like, you didn't pay any attention to what I actually do, because if you had paid attention to what I actually do, you would know that I'm not a good fit for you. A lot of people, again, I do SEO, I'm an SEO strategist, girl get visible, all the things. You'd be surprised how many people reach out to me for SEO, and not just the spammy, spammy other country folks, like real people, real SEO companies reaching out to me, right? You never looked, right? Because if you go to Amazon, you would say I got a whole book on SEO. Same thing even about podcasting. We're here, right? We're listening. We know I got a show. I don't need the help, right? So when people send me those kind of pitches, I'm like, you paid no attention to what I do. No attention at all, but you want me to work with you, right? You want me to spend time with you and that kind of thing. So not reviewing the site is another thing that's clear, right? And I'll tell you guys, because you're probably thinking, well, Kill, I don't have time to listen to everybody's show, review everybody's site, do all these things. One, I'm going to say, and I'm not going to be mean, but I'm going to say make a little bit of time. You ain't got to look at every single one, but once you get your list down to these are the 10, take a minute or two each and do a quick review, right? Secondly, don't put things in your letter that are going to make it clear that you didn't pay attention to these things, right? Don't put things in your letter like the first person who put the thing in the letter. I was listening to your show, or listening to your content, and it was clear they did not listen to my content, right? They told on themselves, right? So I knew to ask them what exactly did they listen to, because I knew they did not listen to anything because they told on themselves. You know what I mean? So, and this is one of the reasons, another plug for SEO Assist, one of the reasons why that flow is so good is because it asks you questions like, did you look at this? Did you not look at this? And it crafts your letter to make sure that you don't put your foot in your mouth, right? Helps you not put your foot in your mouth. Go to SEOassist.com, right? Use the code POD and you'll get a little extra, right? But making sure you don't put your foot in your mouth, right? So fifth, reviewing the site. Sixth one, only listening to one episode. And this is kind of piggybacks off the last one, is that you may get a glimpse of something that someone does and say, okay, I'm going to pitch them now. At least, even if you don't listen to every episode, at least look at the other episode that they have. Like, look at the other topics that they've talked about. I can clearly tell when somebody talks about thinks I do something that I don't, right? Like, you know what it was? I think that person looked at the 5 social media. Remember, I recently did a video. If you guys have not seen it, go over to my TikTok and my Instagram. It's on both. At that point, I did a reels about the social media sites that are getting into search. Now, I did it because I teach search, right? This person assumes I taught social media, which, if y'all know me, clearly is not me, right? I talk about how search meets social. I do not teach social, right? And so, again, it was super, super clear that they really didn't pay attention to more than just, and that was a freaking 30-second TikTok video, right? You can't listen to 2 or 3 30-second TikTok videos, then you probably don't need to pitch me at all. So that's another thing, making sure you're listening to a little bit of their content, or at least looking at the topics. Another thing when people mess this up is that they'll send me topics that I've clearly already talked about and not be specific. Like I told you, like podcasters, I need to go a little bit deeper because we talked about that before. But they'll send me things that's like, oh, don't you want to talk about, I haven't gotten this one yet, but like Facebook ad strategies or something like that. And it's like, I already talked about that. I had a guest on that like 3 months ago, right? Like, people are there. Scroll through, do a search on someone's website to see, do they already have an episode about this? Easy, right? So that's another thing, only listening to one episode and really not fully researching the people, right? Number 7. This one's actually not the initial pitch, but this is what you do after the pitch. Overly aggressive follow-ups. I think you should follow up. In SEO Assist, we actually have a follow-up content flow. So not only do we help you write the pitch, we help you write the follow-up, right? I absolutely think you should follow up maybe at least 2 times, right? At least 2 times. You can do 2 different follow-ups and then just dead it, right? Leave it there. If it's a show you really want to be on, I'd recommend going and connecting with the person somewhere else, like follow them on Instagram, something like that, because maybe it's just too cold to a pitch and they just don't know you and they're not even trying to get to know new people, which happens, right? People especially these days, like if I really want to find a guest, I'm going to be honest, right? If I really want to find a guest, I got other business friends that I'm friends with, business friends that I'm in different groups with. I've got clients who have businesses who have, a lot of dope stuff going on that I can, easily ask them on the show. I have real friends in life, like real life friends, right? Who have really good careers and really good things that I can have them on the show. And then if all else fails, I have paid groups that I'm in, like for different courses that I've taken and programs that I've taken, that I could always go and say, hey, anybody want to be a guest? So I've got 4 places to look for guests before I go to a cold email. And I'm telling you guys this because it's important for us to understand what we're getting ourselves into when we pitch. Not saying you shouldn't pitch. I think you should pitch. You absolutely should pitch, because even in those 4 places, I miss a lot of people, I'm sure, right? But if you're going to pitch, the pitch has really got to wow people. It's really got to do something to make them want to take the next step with you, right? Because you got to bypass all the other options that they have. So you have to be the answer. Like I say with SEO, you have to be the answer, because you got to get through all the other stuff, right? So with that in mind, I think you should pitch. I think you should follow up. Sometimes I don't even look at an email until the second one, right? Because that tells me it's not just like some mass sending spammy thing, right? But when you get to the third or even fourth one and you start opening it up with like, did you see my email? Right? Or, hey, I haven't heard from you. That shit is hell annoying. And I know I don't normally curse, but there it is. It is hell annoying when someone is literally almost badgering me until I answer them. And usually that answer, because now I'm pissed, is no, I don't want you on the show. I don't want your client on the show. Because I get this a lot from, again, those pitch companies. Right? Be careful who you hire to pitch for you, right? And if you need help with pitch services, let me know. We got you. But be careful who you hire. I'm not like saying don't hire, but be careful. Read their stuff. Ask them to copy you on some of these emails, because some of them, baby, they are messing y'all up, right? Some people have been banned in my mind from anything I ever do in life, and it wasn't even their fault. It was the company's fault. But when they start saying, did you get my email? And did you see, are you going to respond? Maybe your inbox got to, like, you're not going to be aggressive in my inbox and want something from me, right? That's ridiculous, but people do it. So, as you can see, I'm upset about that. So overly aggressive in those follow-ups and essentially turning people off, right? The next one, we're at 8, right? Number 8 on my list here, right? So we're getting down these ones. I'm just going to put up the fist for these ones, right? Because this has all happened to me very recently. And they are the most annoying, right? So actually, I'm going to switch these around, right? So number 9, remember number 8, which was number 9. We're going to just change the numbers here in my paper, right? Talking more about you than about the show and my audience, right? So this goes a little bit to about not giving me topics and not really researching and stuff like that. The people, or just going in for the numbers, the people and the pitch companies, because they do this a lot, who do nothing but tell me how great the guest is. I've got this great guest for you. Their name is so-and-so. They did this. They've been awarded 5 different awards. They might even give me topics. They could talk about these things. Here, click into their PDF or click into their website so you can see their whole, one pager and more information about how great and amazing and dope they are. Let me tell you, we don't care. We don't. Right? When you are pitching someone and sending, again, especially if you're sending on behalf of someone else, but when you're getting this, like when I'm getting me, that does not tell me that we are going to have a good conversation. That doesn't even tell me you don't know anything about me because you haven't mentioned it, right? You don't know my audience. So you haven't said, I think your audience would really like I usually tell people, your audience will really enjoy learning new ways to market with SEO, right? Your audience will really enjoy how to use their voice with something like SEO. So I usually throw in things and connect the audience to what it is I'm talking about, because that's what a podcaster wants to make good shows for their audience, right? They want to grow their audience, get more people to listen to their show. They want to get existing people to continue to listen. If you just talk about you in the pitch, I already know that you are just going to talk about you on the episode, right? And you're not going to teach my audience anything. You're not going to give them anything. And you might be a great guest. You might be, everything I'm saying might be total. You might be like, Killer, that's not me. I'm going to come and give value. But if your pitch doesn't even give value, no way I'm going to think that your episode is going to give value. So keep that in mind. If you're pitching someone, tell them how that's going to be valuable to their audience, right? Even in a little bit, even with one sentence, tell them how that's going to be valuable to their audience, right? Next one. So the new number 9, the new number 9 is comparing yourself to other guests. Some of you guys probably saw this rant because it's not the first time it's happened, but this one in particular got the 9 and the 10 spot, let me tell you. But this one in particular got the 9 spot using, sorry, I almost said 10, comparing themselves to other guests. I saw you had so-and-so on, so I think I'd be a good guest too. Why? Why does me having someone else on make you a good guest? And in this particular one, the way they worded it, they said it wasn't that, because I definitely sent back a heated correspondence, right? They said it wasn't like they were slighting it, but it was like, if you had her on, like, I'm cool too, I need to be on too, that kind of thing. Maybe they weren't slighting, but I felt a little offended because, another hint, a lot of people who have guests on their shows, especially the early episodes, they know those people, like they're friends. And so this one, they just happen to really pick the wrong episode to pick on because it happened to be one of my good friends, right? And so I'm like, yo, you're not going to talk about my friend and come on my show. Like, that's not how that rolls, right? And then overall, just because, and it almost was entitled, because I had this person, you should have me, or because this person was on, you should have me. Like, y'all go together, which you don't, right? You don't even know. And I even said that, do you know her? Because again, that's my friend. But I will say, even if it wasn't my friend, when people compare themselves to other guests on the show, that does not impress me. It more annoys me, or just lets me know you won't be any different. Yes, I had so-and-so on my show. Why do I need you, right? Why do I need another person? Because I already had so-and-so talking about that on the show. And so you guys are similar. I got that. Thank you for the episode. I already got it, right? You listened to it, so you know what happened. So don't compare yourself to other people on the show. Even if you use, which I do recommend, right, using other people who are closely related to your industry to help you research shows to pitch to, right? We talk about that in my Pitch Perfect trainings. Yes, I recommend that, but the making that comparison in the actual pitch is not the move. Like, just because you use that name to help you find me doesn't mean you should use that name to help you get into the show. And the thing is too, and this is kind of overall for all pitches, is you don't know how they're going to land, right? You're not there when the person's reading. You're not understanding like, how many other pitches they've gotten or how many other things that have happened. So if there's things that might be a little bit confusing or might be a little bit fuzzy, leave it out, right? Extra information that they don't need, leave it out, because you might offend someone, because someone's going to be like, it wasn't that offensive. It offended me, right? You might offend someone without even knowing, right? Or not even intending to. You try to do something else and you want to do another thing, which actually leads me to number 10, right? So drum roll, right? Drum roll, number 10. This one, y'all, it's only happened to me a handful of times, but every time it does, I can't believe we're in 2022. I'm just going to say that, right? We're still doing that. Using slang or other culturally inappropriate or appropriating language. That's the best way I can write it. Like, to make it as nice and easy and PC as possible. But let me give you examples. And this is not the grammar police. I'm not saying don't use slang. I say hey in most of my things. Hey is a little bit slang because, formally you say hi or hello, right? I say hey, right, all the time, right? So I'm not saying don't use slang. I'm not saying don't be casual. I'm not saying, although you do want to make sure it's grammatically correct, I'm not being a grammar police. What I'm saying is using clearly slang word. I forgot, this wasn't in the email, but finna finna to go somewhere. If you are Black in the South or just Black here, you probably heard somebody say, I'm finna to go, right? I'm in the North, so we don't really say finna, but I know it, right? Either way, using something like that, like I'm finna to hop on stage, but and it's like, finna, like, who writes that, right? Just because we say it, I don't normally put it, or would not normally put it in writing. And then even worse, and here's the appropriation part. So like that's might be the inappropriate use, right? The appropriation word part is if you're not of that group. I get a lot of, I don't even know how to say it, right? I get a lot of pitch, or a number of pitches, and I say a lot, I mean, I make it like everyone does this. A number of pitches that try to be down, like, hey girl, and talk to me like we're from the same hood or something like that. And they're from no hood. I'm just gonna say it. And they don't know me well enough to know what hood I'm from either, but it's clearly you're talking to me like this because I'm a Black woman, because I'm Black, right? And you think it's cool, right? I like hip hop. Y'all know I like hip hop. I love hip hop. But that does not mean I want my pitches to sound like I'm talking to the RZA, who actually, doesn't use as much slang as you think, right? It just doesn't work, right? I don't want my pitches coming into me sounding like, A, we're friends, right? Or B, you're trying to be part of a community or culture, my community or culture that you're not, right? Or anything like that. Like I said, before I opened up this number 10, because I knew this is a can of worms. I know in the group, y'all gonna be like, whoa, killer. It's never bad to say less, right? To not try to add this extra flavor or extra swag or extra anything to the things that you write. Again, especially if they're not you, if they're not in you, it's just cool, right? Never have I gotten mad at a pitch that just used regular, proper, the King's English. I have gotten mad at a pitch that was trying to be laced with Ebonics and sound like a Fresh Prince episode. The old Fresh Prince, not the new Fresh Prince, right? The Fresh Prince part of the Fresh Prince episode, right? It's just a thing, right? You don't have to be something that you're not to get a pitch. That is not. That I know y'all said you have to stand out and be different and wow me. That is not wow. That is more like whoa. And it is more going to get you not accepted and possibly talked about and dragged through some internet streets. I am one who does not normally share names and things like that, but I've definitely seen people screenshot and put out like, y'all can't believe this ish that I received, right? You don't want to be that person. Just send a regular pitch. Just speak regular English. Let Grammarly help you, right? It's cool. You don't have to say, we can talk once we get on the actual thing. Because let me tell you, most people don't write the way they speak, right? I don't, half the things I say, aren't exactly how I type. Sometimes a little bit of my voice, but not exactly how I type, right? So it's okay. Like I said, if you don't use some of those extra things, it's okay. Right? Don't use any extra things. Don't use any partial words or words with extra apostrophe. Like none of those, right? If you feel like you are sliding down a slope that you don't need to go down, don't do it. And it's funny because like one of the pictures that came in, like I said, I sent a heated request, and their thing was like, you don't like our quirky sense of humor. That's what we call in this quirky sense of humor? Okay. And yes, you're right. I don't like the quirky sense of humor, but the fact of the matter is the email would have still done what it was supposed to do if they had left all that out. If they had left the quirky sense of humor, as opposed to sending it to someone and hoping that that person gets their sense of humor. I'm not obligated to get your sense of humor, especially when you try and get on my show. I'm not. So you're just easier to leave it out. It's cool, right? So those are my 10. I know that was a meaty 10, right? I'm just going to go through all 10. I'm going to read them right from the paper, so no ad libs, right? So number 1, that wrong name. Number 2, clearly choosing to pitch me because of my numbers. Number 3, not giving me topic ideas. Number 4, not paying attention to my demographic. Number 5, not reviewing my site or anything else that I have done. Number 6, only listening to one episode or one piece of my content. Number 7, any aggressive follow-ups. Number 7 is big. Number 8, comparing yourself to other guests. Number 9, talking more about you than you do my audience or the show in your pitch. And number 10, using, I really wrote this, right? Using slang culturally is inappropriate or appropriating and just making the whole thing awkward and weird, right? Like that's the whole thing. And even if we're of the same culture, we'll need to write that in a letter. That's cool. We'll gel when we get on the show, right? Right? So those are my top 10 worst things that came from the worst podcast pitches I've ever gotten or received. And if you are pitching, I want you guys to avoid these things. Don't do these things. Write better pitches. Get yourself out there. You definitely should be pitching, but don't throw yourself under the pitch bus, right, with the crap. If you do need help, like I said, we've got the SEO assist tool, which has a pitch letter. It has a bunch of things in there that's going to help you pitch better, right? So in there's a flow that helps you write a good pitch letter based on where you are, what you know about their business too, about their show too. Pitch letter, a pitch follow-up letter, and the podcast directory of people that are actually looking to get pitched. They're actually looking for guests. And another good thing, I didn't even really mention this because it wasn't one of the things not to do. Another good thing is looking in places like my pitch podcast directory, or every once in a while we do the matchmaking rooms on Clubhouse, or looking when you're in groups for people who are looking for guests. It's never a bad thing to already have a step into the direction of knowing that person. Go and follow them on different social channels and interact with them a little bit, because even if they're receiving this pitch, it doesn't have to be completely cold. Right? You can easily warm it up by saying, hey, I saw you were looking for guests in this Clubhouse room. Or, hey, I saw you were looking for guests because you were listed in the SEO Assist podcast directory. I saw, I've been following you on your social, and, I thought, I could talk about something that would be a good guest. That little sentence that says you've actually done something else to see if they were a good person to pitch automatically turns up the heat on that pitch a little bit. It does not have to be a completely cold pitch. That is really important. So warm it up a little bit by doing things like using our podcast directory or coming into one of our matchmaking rooms. It's a good way to warm things up, good way to get in front of people. So hope you enjoyed this episode. I am looking forward to talking to you guys. The next couple of episodes are going to be really, really special. We are on our road to 100 episodes. Woo, woo, we're almost there. Finally, I feel like it's been forever. Y'all know my wayward ways, right? I feel like it's been forever. I am super excited about what I've got planned that is coming up for the next couple of episodes that are going to lead to our 100 and our 100th episode. And the contest. Make sure you guys go back to the beginning. I talked about the contest that we are running that is going to be really something that's going to help you in your business and podcasting journey. So I'll talk to you guys soon. See you in the next episode. Bye, guys.
It is business. Big business.
Thanks for listening to the Girl Get Visible podcast. I hope you've learned a lot about how to get your brand out of the sea of sameness and start to get visible. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the show, and let us know how much you enjoyed it and what you've learned from this episode of the Girl Get Visible podcast. I'll see you in the next episode.
Get visible. Get visible. Get visible. Go girl, get visible. Go girl, get visible.